All right, so welcome everyone. We're so excited to have you here with us today. We have an amazing presenter, so I just want to welcome you all. Our presenter, Dr. Mary Little, wanted to make sure that you all receive congratulations on receiving this award to create this amazing project. And we're very excited to share with you the resources that we have for you today. Just a quick few housekeeping. So the webinar is being recorded. The resources today we're located in your portal on the Dream On portal, which I'm going to show you again real quick, just in case. And there's going to be 3 resources for you because I added another one this morning. You're going to find the Dream Curriculum Planning Tool that's specific to your project. You'll find the Curriculum Crosswalk Tool and also an Action Planning Tool that was developed by Mary. So we're very, very lucky to have her expertise today. If you have any questions, you can put them in the Q&A or just the chat, I think, is available. And that way we can respond to you. And we will share the recording with you later on, like we always do. So before we continue, let me review with you to make sure. So when you log into your portal, you'll go down to you'll click on groups and it'll show you all the groups that you're a member of. So in the 325X cohort 1 group, you'll find a folder with documents. Cohort 1, under the tab for documents. And this is where you see all the folders of all the resources that we've been sharing thus far. I created a new folder for you that's called Curriculum Planning. And under Curriculum Planning, you're going to find Curriculum Planning Tools and then Resources. So under the Resources folder are 2 handouts that we're going to review today, which one of them is the Curriculum Crosswalk Tool, and the other one is going to be the Action Planning Tool. But I also provided a few examples of some that came from CEC and from CEDAR that can help you with curriculum planning. And then if you go back to the main folder of curriculum planning, you'll see curriculum planning tools. And in there, you'll find a tool specific to your project, your 325X project. So you can have it open if you like during this presentation. And then we're going to go over it bit by bit as we get started with the presentation. Are there any questions? No? All right. So let me head back. And I'm going to introduce the sensational Dr. Mary Little. She is our guest presenter, and she is very, very excited to share with you today all of her expertise.
Thank you, Maria, so very much. And thank you to the members of the DREAM team. I've always wanted to collaborate with a DREAM team, and this is just fabulous for me. And then the DREAM team for each of you. Congratulations. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 people win $1.8 billion to do something with. We get monies to create something to make better education for our children, all children, through all of our collaborators and our ideas and innovations. And so I'm just so honored to be with you all as well. I'm with the University of Central Florida. I've been there since the earth was cooling, I think, but I've been such a fortunate professional to work with incredible collaborators within our university, within the other universities, with our national centers, as well as our school districts, because we wanted to develop approved programs. We want to make things, we want to support our teachers and administrators so that we can meet the needs for our children. And we mean all children as far as today. And so as a way to begin, let's read from the Federal Register from the U.S. Department of Education. Yeah, maybe not, but just to reground us all. Today, we're really looking at going into action, right? To take the dream into our reality, which I love that slogan for this center. The focus for today is really from the Federal Register. We wrote this, right, in our application that was funded. We're going to be developing curriculum, including coursework and field or clinical curriculum experiences and academic requirements for this proposed degree and certification to make sure that we're developing early interventionists, early childhood special education experts, special educators, and related service personnel. And I highlight a couple things in here so we get to dream a new program. However, we need to have the dreaming done and all the certification work done through the accreditation bodies within the first 2 years. And so that's what we're working on today. I know each of you here are probably in different places. I hope it sounds familiar. I don't know about you, but you write all this stuff. It's like a flurry of activity to write all this stuff in the grant. And then it's like, whoop, we got funded. Now what do we do? And so this is to reground us and then to go into action. So one of the assurances also from each of your projects is to submit this curriculum and syllabi for the courses for the new degree or certification program. And that's what we're going to be focusing on, although at the same time, you're also talking within your school and university teams about admissions, student recruitment, advising and mentoring, and the roles of the faculty to be able to deliver this new program. And so all these things combined, but today we're really focused on, I love this, curriculum in motion, turning the 325X into approved programs. And so to get us there today, we're going to 3 to 4:30. I promise to stay timely, but our agenda for today and some of our overview and goals are going to be really to take action. And so as we take a look at the slide here, we're going to be taking a look at our overview and goals and the processes and examples and action planning, as Maria mentioned up front. There are resources that are already there, and we're going to refer to them through this webinar. My goal, I mean, and Maria, thank you so much for the very kind comments, and certainly Liz Kramer and the entire DREAM team for this opportunity. My role really, if you haven't figured this out in the first 5 minutes or so, I am a collaborator by heart. And my role today is to facilitate our conversations and planning for each of the teams individually to achieve your goal and your vision at each of your settings. And so that's what we're going to be taking a look at today. The overall purposes for each of our 325X projects, they're going to be different. Take a look at the overall purposes here. It's to address state identified needs. Well, that's going to look very different. I'm sure at your previous meetings at OSEP this summer and previous webinars, you could hear there's very different goals given the largest frame for what you are wanting to accomplish at your university or institution site to identify the state needs for personnel prep, as we chatted about, and equally as important to ensure that these personnel have the necessary skills and knowledge derived from practices, which we know high leverage practices or what's out of the Federal Register, that they're scientifically based. And so we know this. This is just to ground us, these first couple of slides, just to bring us all back. This is, and I appreciate Maria making this beautiful graphic for us. Well, let's see. I've been at UCF for 30 years, and within that time have had the pleasure to work with millions of dollars of grants. The idea, what I love about grants is you do get to dream. You get to think about the possibilities. What are possibilities for us, for our students within our institutions, within our state sites, and then collaborate, starting with what are the short-term needs. Now, I'm sure that in the section of your grant application, you wrote down the national needs and your state needs and your local needs, which is good. That's your current reality. Each one of us here has a similar but different current reality. Also, some of us, this may be our very first grant that we've ever gotten. Yay, major congratulations to you. Some of you might be folks like me or others that have had a couple of other grants, but really each is different because that center block is what's so, I don't know, is exciting to me. This is why you keep writing the grants, even though when's it due? How much more what letters of support do I have to get? What, I mean, it's crazy putting them in. But ultimately, we get to dream because we're looking at our current context, and then we want to achieve the vision of change so we can make a difference for children. I mean, that's what it all is. And so today, as I mentioned, we're going to talk then about how do we make this happen, making it happen to an evolve and transformation process. We're going to be doing that. I mean, how fabulous to have the Dream Center as the partner, as well as other national resources to assist us with the resources and examples. My goal today, and I was so thrilled, I'm hopeful that each of you will feel comfortable adding to the conversation, because probably another thing you pick up, yes, I can talk without taking a breath almost for an hour and a half, 90 minutes, but we'll learn so much more, please, to share as we're moving through this. And so our process, we're going to have some specific questions to kind of take us through the process, right, of collaboration and connection. And we're going to take a look at those. I'll give you a minute to just kind of take a look at those questions. Each of us will be, as I mentioned, at a different place with these questions with the short-term needs, right? The identified needs, and how we're going to go, the journey that we're going to take. And so what some of these questions, it will be stopping and having some conversation times. And I'm hopeful that you use the chat or you unmute so that you can share some of your vision and actions as we collaborate and move forward. And so as we identify the state needs, what is the vision? What are some specific programs that you want to create or enhance? What are the educators going to need to know and be able to do? The teachers, the school psychs, the early childhood educators, the special educators, the speech language pathologists. What about? How do we get them engaged? What can we build on? Because every one of our institutions is currently doing the way of the work. So how do we build on that? Who are we going to need within these conversations? And just like anything else, we want to get them involved up front. One of the biggest mistakes, and I know everyone knows this, but I'm going to say it out loud, is to go to anyone, but certainly a colleague in higher ed or in the school districts to say, listen, this is what you need to do. Right. Not the best way to build a collaborative relationship. So getting involved up front, and ultimately, as Michael Fullen has said, and Stephen Covey, you got to begin with the end in mind. And so our conversations today these are the frames for our conversations as we move forward. And so you'll see these questions throughout. I am also thankful to Liz and her team. We're really talking about systems change. This is not something that little Mary does in her office at UCF and says, okay, this is the way the 1.5 million, this is what we're going to do, you guys. No, we are looking at systemic change. If we want to really create and dream something different, right? We're going to take a look at what have we currently got. So all of our inputs are going to be different given our situations, goals, schools, people, accreditation units, the resource we want to use to meet the outputs that we put into our grants through this transformation process. And we're going to go through all of these with those questions that it's what do we vision? What skills and incentives and resources do we need to get there? And all along the way, I don't know about you guys, but I have to-do lists and whether you use sticky notes or to-do lists or whatever, they're all over to make sure that we're based on research, that we're getting to the outputs and the outcomes that we want. What Liz and her team have been developed, which is I've inserted into this conversation, is the DAPA model. Since it is a huge change opportunity, we really need a framework, and the Dream Center has created and implemented an amazing model that's really looking at developing, accessing the resources, planning, then implementing and monitoring to make sure that we're reaching the goals within this 2 years for curriculum, but over the 5 years that we've said we are going to meet with the grant that we have been awarded. Again, congratulations. As we take a look at then a little bit more specifics about this, the DAPA model, and I know that on the wonderful resources that the DREAM team has the additional information for you, but we're going to be really focused on the first 3 today. We're going to be moving into action, right? As stated up front. We're going to talk about the desired outcome. We're going to take a look at what are some of the strengths, what do we have? What are some of the gaps? What are some of the needs that we have? What are some of the causes? We've got to go behind the issue. Do we have the faculty to teach the classes we're suggesting? Do the faculty have knowledge about the high leverage practices that we are suggesting that our students learn, right? Do our colleagues in the school districts, are they using the high leverage practices? Are they collaborating, building interdisciplinary collaborative teams, if that's something that is on your team? One of the things that we found, we have a speech language pathologist, one of our grants, collaborating with speech language pathologist special ed teachers. Well, as we met with the faculty and some of the speech language pathologists in the schools, they said, Mary, we don't have one in every school. Oh, okay. We're going to have to think about that because some of the things we thought we were going to suggest in our grant action plan, we may not be able to do. And as Maria said, through today, we're real hopeful that you will leave with items on your action plan so that you can get moving forward. And then Maria and her team will talk a little bit more about executing those. And so major then, as we take a look, we're moving today from vision into action. that these are collaborative goals. These are not something that little Mary dreamed up, right? I don't know. I'm hopeful that you are there with some of your collaborators, but you might not be. So feel free to use all these resources and this whatever, to move us forward. We are going to be discussing some of the issues for collaboration with all of us. We're going to then share some incredible resources that Maria highlighted at the very beginning and that you already have access to as you're moving forward to take this vision into action. And then there is an action plan that you will have access to as we look at the example as we move forward. And so our framework today is that we're going to have these collaborative conversations. We're going to then talk about and show some of the examples and resources so that you can see what's there and jot down some notes for yourself. I don't know about you, but and then the action planning with like a to-do list. So I really appreciate that. I don't know about you, but I find the best, and there it is, a handout ready for you. Maybe it's my advanced age, but I just need to write things down. I hope that it is all right with you, but when we were planning for this, we thought that it might be good to see an example of a 325K, which is very similar to the 325Xs. And so as we move from the action plan, we've got an example here or something to share. Okay, so yes, we know that action plans are good. Either use the chat or unmute. I think you've already met each other, but just to kind of remind us, if you take just less than a minute, what is your long-term vision or desired outcome? You want to either unmute or who's your partner? Is it special ed and speech language? What are you hoping? What is your elevator speech 1 minute of what you would like to see different? What's your
I'll break the
vision?
ice and go first. I think for us, the purpose of our goal is to develop a new dual credential program to
Okay,
simultaneously prepare teachers in special ed and general education.
perfect.
So
Thank you. Yeah,
our long-term plan is to really change the way that we prepare teachers here at San Diego State, but then hopefully more broadly in the CSU system.
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Would anyone else care to share? Thanks, Chris.
I would like to share. So, with our CU Prides project, we propose to develop a new certification degree program. It's a MAT in special education,
Okay.
multi-categorical certification. So, in our School of Education, we do not have a special education department. So, this will be the first special ed program here. And our long-term goal is to develop a special education program that incorporates a mental health component in it.
Oh, so necessary. Both of these programs you're sharing. I mean, no wonder, so critical, right? So thank you, Frigida, for sharing that. Tamara Riley in the chat, there's a dual certification, early childhood and early childhood special ed. We want to do inclusion, right? Team members, how do we do it, right? And so Chris was talking about that with the certification area. Tamara, it looks like similar, but focused on early childhood. Anyone else care to share?
My name is Lisa. I'm at a tribal college in North Dakota. And ours is, we're starting at the beginning. So ours is an associate's degree in early childhood special ed. And with the long-term vision of it, becoming a stackable degree, so that people will continue on. So that's where we're starting.
Perfect. Anyone else care to share? No pressure.
Hello, my name is Josephine Cruz. I'm from the University of Guam, and our long-term vision is really to increase the outcomes of students with disabilities so that they're productive members of the community. But we want to do that by building the capacity of special education teachers by developing an online master's in special education program that will be accessible not to only people on Guam, but people in the Micronesian region, the
Wow.
Federated States of Micronesia, Saipan.
Wow.
Our pipeline into the school system is not strong. So in terms of capacity, and so we want to really build that capacity by converting the current in-person program into an online program.
Perfect. Josephine, appreciate you sharing. Appreciate all of you sharing. At the beginning there, we were talking about different inputs. We can see a lot of similarities or hear a lot of similarities, but differences, whether it's a pre-service or with the content or the level for the students and your vision as you're moving forward. And so thanks to everyone who shared, and please feel free. We'll have several times when you see the little guys talking down there. Yay, Maria, that is just so cute. That'll give us an opportunity and really to help us kind of ground our conversations. So thank you so much. We know what we know. And so I am going to, this isn't the right way to do it. It is an example that we used at UCF to meet our state needs and the goals that were in our project. But I thought it would give us an example as we're working through the process questions, if that helps. And so University of Central Florida, we had a 325K. It's going on right now, a 325K. Our statement was that it's going to be collaborative. We were funding for a collaborative interdisciplinary prep, high quality special ed teachers and school psychologists. I won't even give you the numbers of school psychologists and teachers that we don't have fully licensed in Florida. So this was absolutely, we were thrilled to have the funding. The scholars will be prepared as collaborative intensive intervention specialists to meet the needs, as several of you mentioned, of students with high intensity needs that need an interdisciplinary collaborative school district approach for intensive intervention. And so that's Project Central. You hear me speak of that. I love some of the names of your projects. Maria sent those along. They're fabulous. And so as you think about it, so as you see that, what do you think? Just I'm going to give you 1 minute of just brain dump in the chat. What do you think? If given that vision, what programs would you think would we have, or what knowledge and skills should these school psychologists preparation and special ed teachers need? What do you think as you're looking at that? What kind of skills would they need to have, or what kind of program would we be looking at? I'll give you 1 minute in the chat. Ready, set, give me some ideas. What do you think? This 325K, can you figure out what we did with it? Collaborative skills? Absolutely, Chris, thank you. Yeah, balanced partnerships, good. Tamara, yes. UDL, thank you. Elizabeth, thank you. A balanced partnership, that's super important, right? You start out, that it's a certification, and so what we chose to do, and we'll use this as an example as we're going through, all three of you are absolutely correct. When we take a look at what specifically we did, and this, like I said, you each will be doing different kinds of things, but remember, one of the outcomes is that we have a new program, and we'll use that. Yep, exactly, Frigida, thank you. We decided as a team, or we proposed 4 courses to be co-constructive collaboratively that would lead to a collaborative intensive intervention specialist graduate certificate. We wanted to hang our hat on something that was in the university already. So we had graduate certificates that were part of our university structure. And we thought this would be a great program structure to use, because then we wanted it as several balanced and collaborative, as Chris was mentioning. This collaborative intensive intervention graduate certificate could then be in special ed programming as well as school psychology programming. And so the University of Central Florida, the courses then were co-developed in alignment with standards, and we're going to talk about that. Just as Maria has already mentioned to you, the standards and competencies from CEC, obviously, then NASP, the National Association of School Psychologists, the advanced standards for intervention specialists that are advanced, because this is graduate level work. So we wanted also to include the advanced standards from CEC as an intervention specialist. That's a body of standards that we want to be sure to include, as well as the high leverage practices that were just coming out at the time. And so as we take a look at then what is there, what are some of the state standards, or what are some of the standards as you think about the program that you have just discussed, either here or that you wrote about in your grant application? What standards are you going to need to include in this program that you're developing? CEC standards, NASP standards, ASHA standards. Go ahead, unmute or jot in the chat, please. What competencies would your educators need to know and be able to do in your program? Okay, thanks, Elizabeth. CEC and DEC, good. And National Association for Early Childhood, fabulous. Thank you, Elizabeth. I think there were a couple of early childhood innovative proposals here. Yeah, CEC and NTASC, absolutely. and general education as well, right? As well as, and we're not saying state standards, but we know we have to do that as well for our own accreditation in each of our areas, I'm just sure. I'm going to show you the next slide, and then Maria, we're going to ask you to jump in and tell them about this incredible gift that you have given to them. I just, as I mentioned, this was for our project, but if there's anything in any of this that will help with your thinking, with your teams, feel free. But I created something here that is the same format as what Maria is going to be talking about with one of the curriculum tools that they've created for you at the Dream Center. But it's what is the university? It's a graduate program, not undergraduate, not community college. It's interdisciplinary. What are the, and I noted out then the different standards that we've used when we got our teams together, and this obviously state standards, and then any resources that were there. Okay, so that's just something that we were using. And so as we take a look at the next icon, talk to us for a minute, Maria, if you don't mind, about this incredible tool that you've created for us through the Dream Center.
Okay, so we came together and we wanted to create a tool for you guys that could help you kind of visualize what standards need to align and come together in order to build these high quality, rigorous programs at your universities. And with the twist of some of your programs were very unique. It wasn't your standard, this is a master's program in special ed. Some of you have a lot of different plans for it. There's a doctorate in audiology. There was school counseling and counseling psychology and school psychology. Yeah. There was special education focusing on elementary, middle, and high school. So there was a lot of different pieces that came together. So we tried to outline it in one format so that you can kind of see them all out in one piece to then start building this cohesion between all of them, right? So each of you have received in your curriculum planning folder within the Dream On portal. It has your specific program, your university. And this is kind of how I started digging into what standards align with your program. The project details based on what the information I had collected from you guys, the national professional organizations that are part of the degree program that you're working on. I also try to pull links for state standards. For those of you that were focusing specifically on like teaching licensure, I included those links as well. And then any additional resources from centers or other TA centers that we've collaborated with that could also benefit you doing some research with them for your center. Now, it's not meant to be a fully exhaustive list. There may be certain little tweaks based on where you are at that may change some of these things, but I did, circle around through a lot of different experts in the field, and we wanted to make sure that we encompass as many of the standards that were relayed for you so that you had all the links in one spot to help you with your curriculum alignment.
This is an incredible tool. So if on your action plan, maybe the first item is if you haven't had a chance or you haven't started on your standards work yet, which I know it's not super exciting, but super important for for the program development, for accreditation, for OSEP. Maybe the first action item is to review the outstanding materials with your curriculum crosswalk planning from your particular project. Maria, a huge shout out and thank you. Lots of hearts. And so I'm going to stop talking for a moment or two to let you find your action plan or to jot some sticky notes, or as you think about your project and you see some of the examples from Tamara and Elizabeth and Frigida, Chris, take a look if you can find the curriculum crosswalk planning tool for your project and or interact with that action plan. If you care to share anything, we'll give you about a minute to just kind of identify these resources and find them, because this is, as you're building the better program, the innovative program, these are the frameworks. So, and if anyone care to share, is anyone on this webinar right now? Have you already done your curriculum alignment? Are you set? Because I know we're all in different places with this work too. So if there's any hints or suggestions, if you have started this work, please add that to the chat as well, or unmute and let us learn from your experiences as well.
I can share a little bit.
Thanks, Chris.
So what we did is, we were taking kind of the state competencies from two different credential areas and bringing them together. And one of the things that we found really, really helpful was and we're not finished yet, but just bringing it back to the basics, going back, instead of utilizing existing courses, for example, that have evolved and changed over time after so many different people have taught them. We went to our accreditation matrices, started there, and it's just interesting how some of the courses that we thought were so integral to the program don't meet a lot of the competencies. So it was really a way that we've actually will be developing new courses kind of based on the remnants, if that makes sense, of like what wasn't really being fully addressed or just addressed a little bit here and there. Obviously, some courses like a literacy methods course, hit a lot of standards there, but there were some others that we were actually, it helped, really look at both programs and say, we need to make some changes here, just regardless of this, aside from this new program.
Perfect. Thank you for that honesty and that experience, Chris, because that's so true. Sometimes we try to add on to things that we just really need to recreate. And so thank you for your honesty and sharing and starting with the standards. Thank you so much. Sometimes we can't just put a Band-Aid over things, especially if we want to develop really, think of that graphic. If our outputs are very different, we really have to reimagine and get some great collaborators around with us. And so we'll continue talking through the processes here. So as the overview planning, then all of these resources that Maria has shared with you and talked with you about, these are all here. And then be honest, getting together with the team then with this curriculum crosswalk that have been created for each of you individually. And so again, Maria, you individually, your team in general, fabulous tool to get started. And starting with the standards and accreditation boards is what's critical, because that's what, we want to create something that will hold up and be sustained right through these accreditation processes. So thank you so much.
Maybe real quick, Tamar.
Yeah, Maria, please.
I'm on the right path for the Alabama A&M. Yours was the picture I put on the presentation.
Yes. And you know that we had been using some of the tools by ECIPC, that technical center. Same type of thing. We had to identify the standards of our state, which were, DEC. That's what our state's going to use for special ed, because they're currently just have brand new approved standards that we're moving forward with, and they're going to use DEC and the NAEYCE standards as well. So we have an existing early childhood program, and then our new program is the early childhood special education dual certification. So we did look at our courses. We finally decided that we needed to work on 6 courses that we're going to use as part of our what we call our teaching field for the program. And we put courses kind of on display for the chopping block. And exactly what Chris was talking about is we really looked at what we felt were the most important based on the standards on both. And then how can we put our DEC standards in some of those early childhood courses? How can we help develop some robust assignments attached to rubrics, matched to multiple indicators, and vice versa? So that means some of the early childhood kind of standards need to be incorporated into our special ed courses. We try to eliminate duplication. So instead of early childhood assessment and early childhood special ed assessment, we just thought about how to do inclusive assessment practices and really try to eliminate redundancy, clean up. Several courses were really good starts. And we're just at the place where we have draft syllabi for the new courses. I know we are making progress. It's the approval process, which I look forward to hearing. Across the campus worries me less, but getting it approved at the state side, that's where it'll take a little bit of moment. But we are happy that we've kind of narrowed down. This is what our courses are going to look like, and our crosswalk is just about developed, and we've got draft, new courses to start putting through the process. So we're excited. We've made some headway.
It sure sounds like it. Liz, you want to chime in here, or others with examples? Because this was so important, knowing that time frame. When we get to who should be involved in the conversations, Chris and Tamara, I want you to share who's part of these conversations, right?
Uh, I'll go first. I'm sorry, Chris. I
Thanks.
don't want to. So, as our part of our team is our educator preparation director. She's in charge of clinical field experiences, and she's the liaison between teacher ed and the state.
Perfect.
So she's part of our team. Ricardo's our lead on this. We've included an early childhood and an early childhood special education. She's really our reading literacy faculty. She also has early childhood special ed. That's what her doctorate's in.
Wow.
So we have her, we hired a consultant as part of,
Wow.
because we have, we built in a consultant because we didn't have the expertise until we made our new hire. And then we got ourselves invited into ECIPC because they do something similar to this about early childhood. And then they also gave us a mentor. So our team is deep, and we're making progress together. It has been challenging to speak the same language or to have shared language. So to be honest, I thought at 6 months we were pulling our hair out. Our hair is intact and it's
Looks like
regrowing.
you have hair.
Yes, it's regrowing. I feel like it took us a while, and we knew the day we were there. Like we finally said, aha, but it took a minute to get to the aha. So I don't know about Chris. We had some challenges to get to where we are.
Thank you. Before Chris, you start, could I, a couple of pieces that you mentioned. Number one, that it's a very interdisciplinary team, including someone with accreditation, someone who's going to be, you had mentioned about walking this through the process. To get them involved right up front, right? And just have that conversation right up front. Honestly, to have the people, you recognized a gap that was there. So you hired someone as a consultant to make sure that you're meeting all of these goals, and you've got a timeline set up. No wonder Liz Kramer is saying you're cranking it out. I mean, those are some of the key takeaways that I want to make sure that we restate for all of us here who maybe are not, who are just getting started. And so, Chris, thanks for giving me a minute to do a summary something. Would you care to share through your process some takeaways that you absolutely want our team to hear about?
Yeah, for sure. So we really focused on 3 different groups. So the first group was we did listening sessions, and we're still going to do them into this next year with different groups. So the region of San Diego is one of the largest concentrations of different Native American tribes. So we started with our tribal partners and met with leaders of affinity centers, students, faculty members, and basically said, like, where are our programs succeeding and what barriers are in place and where are they really lacking? And so we've been doing that with different groups, and we've gained so much insight from that. The second group was faculty from both departments involved. And that was the one that I was the most nervous about, bringing people together, especially when we had, especially the literacy folks, they're, different. And I'm one, like different perspectives. But
yes,
we fed everyone very well with good food.
It's always about food, Chris.
Oh, you get them there, you get their bellies full, and then the conversation kind of happens a little more naturally. And that was actually what was so interesting. I think I brought this up in DC. What was so interesting about that is, we walked, like, I remember meeting when we met with the science faculty, and they were like, we don't do anything for UDL. And then they started talking about the assignments in the courses, and the special ed faculty and my colleagues and I were like, no, that's UDL. Nope, that's UDL too. Oh, yeah, that there. Yep, that's very UDL. Like, so they were doing so much more. So, we started kind of thinking we were here, and we're actually like kind of here. So the gap to bridge is much smaller. And the last group, which is actually what gave us the motivation to apply for the grant in the beginning, was a local school district, which is second largest in California, that basically was like, we need teachers that can teach, that can support kids with disabilities in general education. We want to increase the engagement that our students with disabilities have in general education, but our teachers don't have the skills, and they have been, or the capacity, and they've been amazing. I mean, I actually got an email yesterday from one of the leaders at that district, and they said, can we start the program now, this fall? I mean, they're willing to help us, because we're changing the way we do things. And we're talking about, that we've been doing this since the late 1800s, the way that we prepare teachers, and rethinking, like, even just the way that we do clinical placements.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
the way that our students are going to be engaged in these settings, that we want them to be, and this district even said we don't really have the type of like truly inclusive classrooms that you're talking about, but we're going to start developing them. So when your program's ready, which I was shocked, I thought we were going to have to bend and conform to them, but they were like, so when your students are ready, they'll have spots, and it'll give us a couple of years to work this stuff out. So
oh my gosh, it's incredible. First, it all starts with a collaborative connection with people, right? With or without food, getting people together, right? The right people together and having conversations. I know, but it is about positive collaboration and finding, we found the very same thing, inclusion or UDL, our faculty, when we listen to the science educators or it doesn't matter, all of them, they were doing a lot of accommodations and different ways, various ways to teach. But I mean, it was learning about each other's language and making the connection. So, Chris, that's such an excellent point. And I absolutely want to bring to everyone's attention that you're bringing the school districts, because part of these grants, right, is that we're making connections, not just in the coursework, but where the rubber hits the road, which is in the districts, right, in the classrooms. We've got to have some things going on so that we're making change where it counts. Several of you were talking about that we want to make sure that kids with disabilities are doing better in school. Well, that's not going to happen if it's only happening in a classroom in San Diego or in Orlando or in North Dakota. And you're already building that bridge. And wow, Chris, I want to know what you served at your meetings, that the districts are already saying they want to change their programs before you even get ready to be out there. But it's that energy and the dream, right? And people buying in and understanding the dream. And so thanks to each of you and I know that there's more to share, and we're going to hold you, Dr. Kramer, for food so we can share even more. But as we move on, because I do want to remain timely, so thank you all so very much. So as we're taking at what are the specific strengths and gaps, these are some of the questions that we need. What is the vision? You can use some of these questions if you want or not. I mean, you know what the vision is. You know where you want to move. Having an action plan so people can leave with something is critically important, and thinking about the resources that are needed, both, and then who can contribute what. And so thanks, Maria. That's so very important. And so when you think about then this curriculum crosswalk tool, just to bring this part of the conversation then to a close as we move forward, we take a look at the course titles, the learning objectives, have those honest conversations, my friends. We had classes, truly, when you have the word mainstreaming, right, in course descriptions, I'm thinking they haven't been revised in a long time. So be willing to be honest with things that are there. And like I said, a Band-Aid or changing 2 or 3 outcomes or standards may not make it. And so thank you again, Maria, and your team for this curriculum crosswalk tool and the curriculum planning tool. Do you want to speak any more about that tool necessarily, Maria?
Well, this tool was Dr. Kramer's brain. She thinks these things in her mind, and then I'm able to bring them to life.
Wow.
So in your folder, you're going to see this Excel sheet. And what I did was I did it specifically for an advanced special education program to give you an idea of what it looks like, because there were a few other resources like CEC and ECPC that already have it for like initial educator prep. And I couldn't find any that kind of connect advanced educator prep in these programs.
Yeah, they're not there.
So you're at the bottom, there's different tabs. And again, it's not meant to be exhaustive of everything, but I hope it is. So you'll see, let me make it a little smaller so you can see more in one shot. All right, so on the top, I provided you with spaces. So you would put like your course title, you'd put the learning objectives for that course. But then here on the top, this is Advanced Special Education Preparation Standards. And it's also based off of the CEC standards. But each tab stands for one of the CEC standards for advanced educator preparation. But then on the bottom, you'll see here a breakdown of those standards, because obviously like the first one is assessment, it has a few subsections. Then from there, you'll see the CAEP, the Council for the Accreditation of Educator Preparation Programs, and some of the standards that they outline that relate to these teacher preparation programs. Afterwards, I showed you a connection of how they go with the high leverage practices of CEC, again, because they released a curriculum crosswalk for initial preparation, but not one for advanced teacher preparation.
Yeah.
So when we're thinking about for the master's degree, the specialist degree, the doctorate degree, and special education, I provided the different standards that relate to that first assessment of the CEC advanced practices. And then afterwards, you have a section to put your specific state standards. So what you do is for each course, you go through it and you'd say, like, check off if it relates to this standard or not, check off. That way you can kind of see how it all aligns, and it'll walk you through the different areas. And there's a tab for each one. There's a tab for curriculum content, which is another CEC advanced standard, program and services, research, and as well, each one is linked to their direct website for you in case you need to go back and see more information about these different standards. But essentially, it gives you an opportunity to crosswalk through CEC Advanced Educator Prep, the Council for Accreditation of Education Prep, the high leverage practices, and then you can also put in your state standards. And the high leverage practices are the same for initial and advanced prep. It's just the way you relate them to your courses. So essentially, you could keep the same format if you needed to change it and make it related to initial prep, or if you're looking for early childhood. But again, some of those centers like ECPC and CEC do have those for those preliminary programs. But this is a tool to kind of help you lay out more advanced programs, but also visualize how it could look.
This is another incredible tool to use to help get all of this alignment as you're taking a look at the courses, and the program development is really what it is. And so Maria, Liz, thank you for your vision. Maria, thank you for dreamifying and doing all of the hard work, because this is important when we take a look at the frameworks of what's there. We, on ours, are the CEC standards. We had the intervention specialists, those were advanced standards, and the NASP standards, high leverage practices, and obviously the state of Florida standards. And so all critically important. Did the crosswalks, and those, I know Tamara already mentioned about accreditation, right? It's all about the crosswalks and showing how all of this connects, and specifically in which courses that you have selected to be a part of this. And some of the courses can be brand new, some can be massaged, but then having your team really take a look at what are we doing within those courses as we're dreamifying our courses. And so as we are moving forward, thank you so much, Maria, for your work on this. This should be another huge heart. Liz, for your vision, Maria, for putting vision into action. This will be an incredible tool for you. We started with our standards, as mentioned, then back to our standard. Thank you, Tamar. We created a brand new course to meet this graduate certificate. We decided on 4 courses. 1 was brand new, Josephina. 2 were, notice for those of us at universities, right? 2 courses were in special ed, 2 courses in school psych, right? We want to make sure everybody is at the table. And there's a equity as far as course loads, right? We have to be sensitive to the realities of our context too. And so we enhanced 3 of the courses that were there. We wanted to have more fit within an MTSS structure. Planning participants that already asked the others. We had graduate faculty in special ed and school psych at the very least. We had, as Tamara mentioned, program approvals and accreditation, both university. We had to know the time frame. We wanted to know we had a brand new system to get accredited at our university. So we invited them to be there. We invited someone from the state to be there, because we've got to get these programs approved. And then we also, as Chris mentioned, I think Tamara did too, advisory committee members. Each of you have an advisory committee, I'm sure. But then we invited those members to be a part of these conversations. And yes, Chris, any of you said in a meeting with me, it's all about the food, at least getting started. And so there's our example. I'm going to go through a little bit more of what we did here. Did our crosswalk, decided on the courses with our teams, took a look. There was a lot that we had to get rid of, but talked about the content. For example, the 6218, this was the brand new one. The MTSS framework, huge, maybe nationally, absolutely in the state of Florida. And so we were hearing from our advisory committee members that our students, not just the special ed folks, but elementary ed and specifically the school psychology students, they had to know. School psychology graduates were the ones driving the MTSS implementation in our schools in Florida. So that was why we thought, oh my gosh, we have got to really focus on this. So that was a brand new course that we absolutely had to focus on. The learning objective, as Maria showed you, we talked about that. This is a brand new course, but we did enhance all 3 of the other courses as well through these conversations as we were looking at the new standards. I listed some of the standards that were there that were on our curriculum matrix. From the curriculum matrices, then all these standards go into our courses, right? So that we can see the big picture of our vision and the standards and the frameworks. But then in each of the 4 courses that we said were going to be part of our graduate certificate program. And so that's where we were going with this. As we move forward, we will take a look and see action planning. So thank you, Chris and Tamar, for sharing some of, as you're moving forward. And I also shared, please feel free. Now, take a minute. We'll have a reflective minute and certainly share. And if you are want to share with the group, we talked about the standards. What can be built upon to meet your long-term vision? And as I mentioned up front, who are the collaborators going to be to develop, implement, and evaluate this new program? And so I'll give you just a minute to reflect on that, jot it in your action plan. Especially who needs to be, who is currently your collaborator, or who do you need to add possibly to collab, given these conversations. We'll take a reflective 30 seconds. And if anyone cares to put any ideas about, especially the who are the collaborators, we'll give you a moment to interact with each other or add to your action plan. So we're starting to build our vision, our curriculum vision. As we continue to move forward and the discussions, I really thank everyone who has been sharing. As we take a look at the DREAM tools, these will be some questions as you're moving forward. What are some additional resources that you need? Who are going to be collaborating with you for the syllabi development and the approval processes? And the procedures and timeframes. For OSEP, what is it? By year 2, you need to have all of your syllabi ready, your matrices ready, and through your curriculum planning processes. I don't know about your institutions. Ours will take sometimes a calendar year to go through the accreditation process. I don't know about other schools. Chris, Tamar, since you've been getting started with this, how long are you finding at your schools will it take to get through the whole curriculum approval process at your universities?
We're being told at least a year.
Okay, at least
there's a whole process that we have to make sure that nobody thinks we're competing with the mark in the 100-mile radius. Like there's a few state things, and then the state process, and then there's all of our university processes, which take at least 6 months to a year. Yes.
The chat, it looks like a year is pretty standard.
Pretty standard across. All right. So moving forward then, as we mentioned, how do we know if the program is effective? Because ultimately we don't want to do all this work and not see any change, right? So we put some goals in there. So as Stephen Covey talks about, let's begin with the end in mind. And so again, to go back to the Federal Register, that we're looking at the knowledge and competencies of students acquire with the proposed program. We've been talking about that with the curriculum alignment tools, with your colleagues. And it's about, Chris, I appreciated you sharing. It's about developing these partnerships. Because part of this is where the rubber hits the road, number one, but it's also one of our responsibilities for receiving these dollars, okay? We know this. So that's the project services and then project evaluation to evaluate how these goals and objectives have been met. So why not start with the end in mind so that we're building something amazing that we can then get accredited and we know that we're making a difference in program evaluation. And so I'm not going to go on about this a long time, but just some things to keep in mind at the very beginning, an example. And so if we take a look at thoughts that we had, once we had identified the standards and the graduate programs and the collaborators, we looked at the standards. So we were building those into those 4 courses, but then we thought, okay, what are we going to expect them to know and be able to do in those questions and across settings? It's a continuum. So in the various courses, the content, how do we know that they know the content before we even let them out there? And then we called them, I think you used the word robust, Tamara. They're robust, but we also call them performance tasks. These are things that you need to be able to do. And so as faculty, we looked at what we were currently doing, and let's be honest, sometimes we didn't have a lot of performance tasks. We just stopped at saying, oh yeah, they got a 90% on, competencies. No. And then what are the rubrics on the performance tasks? What are the criteria-based feedback? And we'll talk about that a little bit. With Chris's example, get those school district folks involved. I mean, we were very clear and we showed them some of our rubrics, and we had a great relationship with our school district partners at Mary, really, we don't do this. This is not the way real school works. Okay, then tell us about real school. And so we wanted criteria-based feedback. We wanted to know that our students, our graduates, were doing what the districts and the state were wanting them to do. We thought we were close, but as our two colleagues shared with us, sometimes we weren't on the right track. And so we had to take a look at, and that was through the feedback. And so as we're moving forward, then, thank you for sharing this, to be thinking about those, have these conversations up front. We got rid of a written master's comprehensive exam. We thought, what is that about? Especially in the day of AI. Why bother doing that? We've had various to see that their content knowledge. We want to see what they can do. So across each of the courses, we had a conversation about what do we expect them to know and be able to do. These are such rich conversations, and Chris already shared the districts are going, wow, let's change some of this. We've got to build it better at our end too, as a partner. And so we've got listed here each of our courses. Then our graduate students in the certificate program in this grant, they have to meet the rubrics and meet the evaluation summaries across multiple settings. And then they are evaluated by matrices and rubrics that are really the same, but in different settings, right? Because this is what they need to know, this is what they need to do with my feedback at the university classroom, and then what are they able to do in the school district themselves, because it's all about how will we know if the program is effective. And I think for Gita, it was you up front that said, we want to know that we're making a difference with kids with disabilities. If that's the case, then what is that going to look like? And what performance tasks, what do we need to collect so that we know that? And so there's our example that's there. You're so sweet to listen to me go on about this, but I think it's so critically important. And our graduate students, they were so excited because in this they didn't have a 3-hour written exam. All of us on the team said that is not the best way to know that they have mastered the objective. So when they knew that they were going to these performance tasks of real items, real authentic work, they were thrilled. And we built them right into the courses and with our university partners. And so we also just want to bring this up. You heard about accreditation agencies, CEC. There's a lot of information out there about program reviews. I'm sure that your colleagues that do accreditation and performance assessments at your schools and universities, they will know this. There's full workshops available. I just want to bring this to your attention about criteria performance assessments. Why build all these courses, build all these performance assessments, build all these rubrics, throwing stuff out, as Chris said, creating new ones, if we don't know what the end products are going to look like by the accreditation boards? So I'm not going to go through an accreditation workshop, but know that it's out there.
That'll be a webinar for a future month. How's that?
Exactly. But just know they're out there because some of you are, in different stages of this process. And so are the descriptors, how to build the rubrics themselves, what other characteristics going to look like, or the criteria. Another one with the program review about rubrics, they need to be aligned with the standards. So again, we've talked about the standards, but are the rubrics aligned? Are the descriptors focused on candidate performance? What are they able to do? Do they address what they know and be able to do? I guess I just read that, so sorry. And then the descriptors, are they using the same framework? Unacceptable, acceptable, proficient. We started some of our rubrics and didn't have the descriptors distinguished correctly, which is in observable ways, which is okay. I'm glad we found it after the first course and not after the last one. And so, but I want you to know that it was out there. A couple of other need to know as far as developing next steps. Change, I think we mentioned this, it's ongoing. Our goals today, our conversations today were wherever you are on that input, whatever educational context you are thriving in and dreaming from. It's bringing these new ideas, understandings, and practices to lead to meaningful improvement. That's what we're doing from the current conditions. Where we are now and how are we going to move on? But it's developmental, it's planned, and I would argue it's an intensely personal process to promote personal organizational growth. Somebody put in there that it's very difficult or that it's grueling, or I've been teaching forever. I'm not kidding. I've been teaching for 50 years. I think I know things. Please don't, what do you mean you're going to tell me you're going to throw out my syllabus that I've had for 48 of those years? So be thinking about those. So when it is greatly personal, and to promote the organizational growth, this innovation is what we want. And so how can we continue? How do we support each other? Again, thank you, Liz, and your team. The DAPA model is fabulous in that it is, today we were establishing the outcome, talking about a big picture from OSEP, but then also with our own state needs and our own project. We're asking you to, again, where you are, to think about the strengths and the gaps and the root causes. You heard several examples, and some of it means some of the root causes, we got to start over in some places and be okay with that. And then to plan. Hopefully there's a couple of pieces on your action plan. You certainly have incredible tools that were dreamified for our work. And so the last two, we're hearing we've got at least a year to get through the processes in our universities. That, remember, the overall time frame is 2 years. So we need to work on and continue this great work to execute our action plans, to track and adjust as we're moving forward. And so thank you we've got this framework that is there. Other effectiveness, we've included, there's so many things, and I know that these are already in the DREAM Center confines and webinar and feedback information, the tools that are available, but just a couple other are just to bring these back to your attention. And as we continue this work, as we continue our collaboration with the DREAM Center, with the Cedar Center, with the Council of Exceptional Children, with the Center of Great Teachers and Leaders, the Center of Accreditation, all that we've had those conversations with and for, as we're defining and delivering effective collaborative educators to meet the vision that we had when we proposed collaboratively our funded grant. And so as we bring my section to a close, one or two other things to think about. The Cedar Center, I don't know how many of you have been on the Cedar Center, but huge resources, amazing. One of the tools that they've just created is an artificial intelligence tool that gives you ideas about using AI. It's an AI document that then looks at the high leverage practices and various standards and really moves forward with the use of AI for program development. And so I wanted to bring that to your attention. That's a relatively new innovation on the Cedar Center when you're infusing high leverage practices. But I also wanted to place this is from Cedar, wanted to bring this to your attention as far as the use of AI with our program development work. But it's an excellent tool, I think. And so with that, questions, closing reflections, thoughts to share? What great conversations and sharing. I really appreciate all that shared in the chat, and Maria and the DREAM team, their work, everyone that shared in the chat, as well as Chris and Tamar, really sharing some of the real life experiences moving forward. Questions for the DREAM team, for me, for others that attended today, or any closing reflections? I'm honored to be a part of these conversations. And so with that, there's my email. Yes, I'm one of 4 people in America that still uses AOL. And so feel free to reach out, or certainly reach out to the DREAM team. And so from the bottom of my heart, you are engaging in a grueling but so rewarding opportunity for you and the students, and ultimately the children, all the children in the schools. And so thank you for participating in Curriculum in Motion, turning your 325X vision into improved programs. Know that we are thrilled that you are part of this DREAM team. And so Liz, Maria, thanks so much for everything. And I'll turn it back over to you all.